Hello to all my BC WrestlePod nerds out there, and welcome to the very first rendition of the 2025 season of the All Elite Ensemble review. Yeah, that's the thing we're keeping with from the iteration that was myself and Dolphin. Now it's the All Elite Ensemble review.
Oh, that's fantastic. Welcome to AEW
Ensemble, your weekly AEW recap show here on the BC WrestlePod YouTube network conglomeration syndicate Twitch dumb podcasting thingamabobber.
Dude, that's gonna be your next.
My goodness, I love this so much. I have missed this. It has been a couple weeks since the holidays, but we are here to go over the past week of AEW programming. It is just Dynamite and Collision now until further notice, as Rampage has retired. Moment of silence. All right.
Is there talk of another show? Because
So-
I mean, you have a roster with, I don't know, 3,000 people.
For reals.
What are you gonna do?
For reals. So the last that we heard is that AEW put in a trademark for Shockwave, and who knows when or where that's going to debut. But at this point, we know nothing more about it.
Is it gonna be on Fridays? Are they gonna have a blue and silver logo? Is it gonna be a 3-hour show?
Only time will tell. But until then, we just got Dynamite and Collision. So we only got 4 hours of AEW programming, which, is still packed full of stuff, as we will discuss. So before we get into all of that, of course, introductions. I am Mikey, and joining me back after a little bit of a hiatus, part of the AEW review squad, is the Professor.
Man, I don't think I've done an official AEW review since I think I did one in September, and then I was directing, and then I think I jumped in for one in November and said hi, and that was it. Because I was like, I haven't been able to watch anything. I have no idea what's going on.
I know. So you got 4 months of AEW that I will try to catch you up on as we go through all of this stuff.
Watching Dynamite and then reading a little bit and seeing some of our reviews and some of the other stuff, I don't think I'm 90% caught up, but I know stuff's gone down and things are different. We'll talk the Tony Storm stuff a little bit later, but I was pleasant surprised by this Dynamite jumping in for the first time in a while. Like, there was some good wrestling here. But we'll discuss. I cut you off.
It's all good. So quickly, if you love what you see here on the screen and you want to follow us everywhere, follow us on all over the social medias at BC WrestlePod. We have a Facebook, a YouTube, a Twitch, an Instagram, we have Threads. We're pretty much anywhere and everywhere, and you can download the Next Level app to find all the social medias conveniently at your pleasure in one place. We also have some merchandise that you can buy: sweaters, t-shirts, mugs, cups, stickers. The works is fantastic. So I'm just excited to get into this. So let's just jump straight into it, because we are going to begin with AEW Dynamite.
We're going to start with the Dynamite. Yeah.
We are going to start with the Dynamite since it canonically happens first in the week. So Dynamite took place January 8th from Clarksville, Tennessee at the F&M Bank Arena. And it's Wednesday, my dude, so you know what that means. So they
But
quickly...
it's on Fridays now, right?
No, Dynamite's still on Wednesdays.
Okay, then why? I could say that. My YouTube TV recorded a Friday edition. I'm watching it like, wait,
It's really weird.
what day is this happening?
Yeah, for some reason, YouTube TV is wild when it comes to the release dates. But, I don't have that problem because I get to watch it on Max now, since we're dual casting and live streaming on Max. So that's fantastic. But after we get a quick intro and a quick rundown of what's to come, we just jump straight into our first match of the evening, like no chaser. And this was a banger, as the kids say. But we have Buddy Matthews versus Will Ospreay opening up the show. Don't care. This was my match of the night.
Really? First match.
This was a banger, as the kids say.
I might agree with you as we go through this review. This was killer. I'm not saying Will Ospreay's small. That's not what I'm saying. There's certain wrestlers that when they stand next to Will look smaller. And usually that's, because they're 6'8" or 6'10" or whatever. Yeah, whatever, I get it. For some reason, Buddy Matthews, just the width and presence of Buddy Matthews next to Will Ospreay made Will look like, that underdog Will Ospreay, which I'm sure he loves to have. It's me versus the world type of thing. But Will's not a small guy. Will's still jacked. This was fun. I had fun watching this right out the gate. I know there's a little bit of a House of Black dissension and what's going to happen and how's this going to go thing going on. They allude to that. They have a package in there about that in here. I thought they worked really well together. All the outside the ring spots were crazy. Buddy Matthews caught the cutter like clean.
That was crazy.
That was different. Okay, that just happened. That kicking sequence, they were crushing each other in the chin there. So that was really cool to see. This is the kind of a match that you want to start your night with. It was fun.
Oh, absolutely. The finishing sequence was also a lot of fun too. And if Buddy Matthews ever needs somebody in his corner, that Will Ospreay will be his guy. They shake hands. And then we get into a recap package of everything that went down at Wrestle Dynasty in Japan, which was also a fun show. But yeah, Professor, you mentioned it earlier. Quite the curious thing with what's going on with House of Black, and reports saying that is on his way out, leaving Buddy and Brody there with Julia Hart. So some interesting stuff. And honestly, I am not mad if Will wants to start his own little faction here in AEW.
Yeah, it sounds like Will might benefit from one. We were talking about Malachi Black leaving for a year, right? That's been a thing. We know there was some dissension in how he was being used. We know that after that match with Adam Copeland that there was some talks of, what am I doing here? How are we doing this thing? And then House of Black disappeared at one point. I remember JVL having a lot of rants about where's the trio champs and
right.
If you're going way back in the memory banks. So yeah, I don't know. We're alluding to something. It seems like a promo like that gives them an out to go anywhere, which is smart, storytelling wise. Could you imagine that? Buddy, Brody, and Will?
Julia to toe too.
Julia,
that's
yeah.
Crazy.
That's a cool little ensemble if you really want. It's a trip. So that's interesting.
I love it so much. So after our video package recapping the AEW talent that was in Japan for Wrestle Dynasty, we then get back to the ringside where, oh my God, is that Private Party? Because they they make their way to the stage celebrating retaining the tag titles on the collision that occurred the previous week. And as they call for a celebration, they are interrupted by the We Hurt People, Hurt Syndicate. MVP gets on the mic, says that, he wants to join in on the celebration, raising a toast to the tag champs. But Bobby gets on the mic and says that the Hurt Syndicates are going to be coming for those tag titles. So we have a bit of a stare down before we jump into our next match of the evening, which is Mark Briscoe versus the almighty Bobby Lashley. Listen, I am so happy to see Bobbles wrestle again on my television screen.
The fact that the potential for this even exists is hysterical in my brain. If you had said this to me a year ago, I would have laughed so hard. Like that Mark Briscoe, Bobby Lashley, no way. But, it's a thing. I also want to say, before we jump off the promo completely, I thought the promo was fine. I didn't have a problem with this and where we were going. That security guard is not going to stop Bobby Lashley.
I love you, Cheesecake, but you are not about to stop Bobby.
Dude looks smooth, looks cool as hell. He's got the rope. If Bobby's getting in, Bobby's getting in. Like, there's no...
Oh, my goodness.
And MVP, hilarious on the mic, too. I thought he did a really good job leading into this.
So good. Oh, my goodness. And then, of course, we get to the match itself, which was also really fun. And I love that Bobby is getting dominant wins because he makes Mark tap out for this one.
You can tell me more because I've been away for a while. How many matches has Bobby had since coming over to AEW? Is it a handful at least? I know it hasn't been too long.
I would say like 4 or 5 at this point. Like he's fought Mark, he's fought Briscoe. Him and Swerve had a pay-per-view match at Full Gear, which Bobby won, so that was good.
So there's a certain, I'm gonna be careful how I say this, and you'll know what I'm saying as I say it. There's a certain polish and poise that they demand of you how you do this thing. Whereas AEW and 90% of the promotions are sort of, your style is your style, go for it. And what's interesting is Ricochet doesn't have this, and we'll talk about him later. Bobby Lashley still has that sort of very polished WWE, almost like a volleyball thing, right? Bump, set, spike, bump, 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 bump. Where someone like Mark Briscoe is all flow, and it actually worked pretty well here, right? Like they were able to really communicate. Bobby Lashley's getting the hang of that sort of, hey, I can do whatever I want type of style. I would love to see him go more of that MMA rogue violent style, which we've seen every now and then. I think that would fit in really well here, but I'm gonna say this, you'll understand. I hope he's just not, I'm big man, do big man things, because AEW 100%. Is a lot of those, and we'll see that tonight. There's a lot of, look, it's Brian Cage. Look, it's, I don't know, Murder Hawk. Look, it's another big guy. Like, okay, but what is your way of doing it? I hope I hope he starts to get that more specific as time goes.
Oh, absolutely. Again, Lashley picks up the victory here. Post-match, we have Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin beating up on Mark Briscoe, and then Private Party with the chairs coming in for the save. So we are slowly building the Hurt Syndicate versus the Private Party, which is probably going to end up being for those tag titles. I would not be surprised if we get it at Grand Slam Australia, if that's where they're going to have it, or even before. So who knows?
Love
Love
that
it.
Shelton Benjamin's there. Love that he's there.
Oh man, he had such a great showing in the Continental Classic leading into World's End in December. Like, there was a lot of good matches there. I don't know if I sent it to you, but my favorite match of the whole Continental Classic was probably Will Ospreay versus Darby.
You told me that over the weekend. I got to go watch that. I got to go find that.
That was probably my favorite match of the whole entire thing, and Darby beat Will clean, so that was crazy too.
Woof. Wow. And then apparently got thrown down some stairs.
Yeah, he got thrown down some stairs. He's off of television for a little bit. So
Jesus.
he'll probably be back in the spring with this whole Death Riders Moxley storyline.
That was a good 100-step stunt too. Like, that was not easy.
Nope, it was not. So we cut to commercial. We get back to the ring, and it is time for our third match. Dynamite just wastes no time this episode. And we have our Casino Gauntlet match. So the men will be entering at random intervals. It's basically Royal Rumble, just not at a set time limit. And the only way to win is to pin somebody in this ring. So you could be in the lineup, and if somebody gets pinned before you make your entrance, well, tough tinkies, that's it. But the winner of this Casino Gauntlet match will get a shot at Mox's world title at the special Dynamite Maximum Carnage episode happening tomorrow night. And so it's a Casino Gauntlet match. This is the chaos that it was. So we started out with Hangman Aggro Page, as we've come to call him now.
Yeah, that's fair. Go on.
I mean, he got angry. He burnt Swerve's. He's an arsonist. He set Swerve's house on fire.
Yeah, he's angry. He's just angry. He's angry.
Hangman Aggro Page and Wheeler, which is a member of the Death Riders, starting. This was fantastic. We started this out. Then, of course, time goes, and then we get Jay White coming in. And then the ultimate troll happens, because then whose house? People think Swerve's coming out, but it's Ricochet instead, who has beef with Swerve at the moment. Last week, or the previous week, the Ricochet kind of just snapped after getting embarrassed by Swerve at World's End and stabbed this dude with some scissors. It was crazy.
What? Okay, I gotta go see Ricochet stab someone with scissors. This totally juked me. I bought it. I'm like, wow, wait. That's not knowing that context. It was a little jarring, but I really like heel Ricochet. It's new to me. I also know y'all been watching, but I like heel Ricochet. He's got kind of something to fight for. He's not bad on the mic. Like he sells so well. Like every time he sells something, it's like, oh my God, that man's dying. Someone help him. Oh, that's right. It's wrestling. My fault.
Well, that's exactly what he did for this next participant, because next up was Adam Cole, baby. Hits that Panama Sunrise on Ricochet.
Yeah, is Adam Cole heel Adam Cole? Is he undisputed Adam Cole? Is he just...
It seems that's the direction we're going with, but currently he is still babyface. So we just finished the feud with him and MJF at World's End. Everybody's moving on.
Right.
So we finished and wrapped that up, because now it's Adam Cole, and he's with Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, and the Undisputed Kingdom. So there's 5 of them. So pretty much this is AEW's version of the Undisputed, Kingdom,
And they're not a heel faction anymore.
No, it seems that they're face for now, but we'll see what happens with all of that.
But Roderick's still... All right.
I know. You've missed a lot. Roddy and the Kingdom turned face not too a couple months ago.
Do they work as a face?
I think they did, and MJF beating the tar out of him after their match at Full Gear kind of helped a little bit. But yeah, I mean, what didn't work was Kyle O'Reilly, because him and Adam Cole were beefing, and now they're friends. So it's just like, all right, well, we'll just take it what it is for right now.
All right, I'll not that it matters, but I'll allow it. All right, fine.
I will allow it. And then coming in next is, surprise to me, is our TNT champion, Mr. Daniel Garcia. Love him. We'll talk about him more on Collision because he had my match of the night over on Collision. But Daniel Garcia is in here. You know, him and Adam Cole start fighting. Everybody is fighting. And then the countdown gives for our next participant, Powerhouse. Powerhouse Hobbs enters into the chat. He comes down. He wrecks everything. Then, you know, as the meat chants for Hobbs are starting to cheer, then we get Rick Strong making his way in, and then we get the Murder Hawk, Lance Archer, then Kyle O'Reilly, then Jeff at this point, and then everybody is fighting in this ring. But ultimately, Kyle O'Reilly gets back into the ring towards the end, who gets drop kicked. Kyle, I love you, but you get pinned for the mat. Powerhouse Hobbs is the winner and your number one contender, and will face Jon Moxley at Maximum Carnage for the AEW World Championship. So go Hobbs! He had an incredible showing against Takeshita for the International Championship at World's End, and I'm happy to see that he's still getting a push, even after losing that match.
Yeah, that's great. I like Powerhouse Hobbs. I'm a homer because he's a San Francisco guy, so I'm excited for him. It is kind of funny that it was Jeff Jarrett. It's over. Like, oh, I like the feel of it. All of them do really a part of me that's like every certain amount of time, but you don't really have time for these, right? So the sort of chaos of it, I want to like it more. I don't know what's missing for me. It could just be me and my brain, but there's a part of me that was like, I don't know how I feel about. But this is great. It was still fun. There's just something about it that I got to get used to, or just get back into the swing of AEW things. I feel bad that Kyle takes the pin all the time. Hasn't he taken the pin for a match like this like 4 times in a row or something weird like that? Am I crazy?
Yeah, I mean, he would also, anytime the conglomeration went up against the Death Riders, or the conglomeration went up against any heel faction, anytime they lost, Kyle would always end up getting pinned.
He's taken a lot of pins, and that's unfortunate, man. But
yeah, I want more for Kyle. Again, we get Renee, who gets Hobbs to speak for a little bit. Then he goes up the ramp, shakes Jeff Jarrett's hand. We get a video package, you know, that tomorrow night at Maximum Carnage Dynamite, Christian Cage and Hook are finally going to come to blows. Thank God, because we've been it's like an on and off again relationship with this feud. We get development, then we don't see it for weeks, and then we get more development randomly. Like, I'm just happy for it to be done tomorrow night.
I said I don't know anything about it, so I believe you.
Yeah, so it's wild. So then we get into our next part. So these next 2 slides kind of go hand in hand, because Ian, shout out to Ian, ROH commentator, one half of the best commentary team on television right now, him and Caprice for Ring of Honor. But we get an interview with Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett announced the previous week that he has signed his, you know, final wrestling contract. So this is it. So when it's up, he is going to retire. And, you know, he talks about what he said last week, how he wants to go for the AEW championship. And before he gets any further, we are interrupted by "I'm better than you, and you know it." MJF makes his way down to the ring, and we get a bit of a back and forth between these two. And by the end of this, I'm just like, so we are getting a Jeff Jarrett MJF feud. Interesting.
Yeah, it was not on my bingo card. Sort of. So we've talked at length about the love-hate we have for Jeff Jarrett, you know, right? He just sort of became a caricature of himself. Early AEW was not doing himself any favors. It doesn't seem like Tony Khan knew what to do with him or use him, but he was mentoring folks and doing something in a better way than you know who. He didn't need a tree to do it. And I've heard nothing but good things about Jeff Jarrett, which always makes me suspicious, 1. But 2, like, I hope that's true. Like, that he's actually been supportive and lifting people up. And if that's the case, then I don't feel too bad about it. And I know they're in Tennessee. We're kind of in Darby Sting territory a little bit, right? We're in sort of this, here's this new young generation putting over the old generation one last time kind of thing. I'm excited to see it. I don't know how well these two, I feel like Jeff Jarrett sells better than 90% of the folks in here, right? He oversells, I would say sometimes. Some of his selling is like, oh my God, that's some early 90s stuff right there. But no,
absolutely does.
I'm interested for sure. I wonder what the two of them could come up with and could create. For sure. As long as it's better than that Texas Chainsaw match, as long as it's better than that, whatever that other gimmicky thing that Jarrett did.
Right.
I don't know. I want to see if they could at least kind of do what they did for Sting, right? Like give him a match and see where it goes. I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see. It's the beginning of 2025, MJF and Jeff Jarrett. We'll see where this goes. We then go to commercial break, and when we come back from it, we get reminded that Darby got thrown down a flight of stairs. So that was crazy.
Destroyed.
Oh my goodness. And then we, head back to ringside where we get the arrival of the Rated R superstar Cope, as now that he's going.
I thought that was a mistake. Is that what they're calling him? Cope?
Yeah, that is what he is. He is the Rated R superstar Cope. I'm not questioning it because, there's a lot to unpack there. We don't got a lot of time for it. But yeah, I was perplexed by it as well. You are not the only one.
Man, like copium, as the kids say? Like, really?
I don't know.
Jeez.
But Cope gets on the mic. He reminds us again. Darby goes thrown down the stairs. Talks about, his beef with the Death Riders and him teaming up with FTR. And they are now known as Rated FTR. The Death Riders come down to the ring. Everybody gets into the ring. The Death Riders attack Cope. And the numbers game is too much for him. But they all scurry because then Powerhouse Hobbs makes his way down to the ring to Cope. So there we go. We are continuing this feud. Rated FTR and the Death. It's weird because Rated FTR Rated FTR has a beef with the Death Riders on Dynamite, and then they're beefing with the Learning Tree on Collision, which we'll get to when we talk about Collision. It's a lot that's happening.
So are the Death Riders the Death Riders because they can't be the Blackpool Combat Club anymore?
They changed the name, and so that's what we're getting with. And then Mox's entrance, all of them have different entrances, but Mox doesn't come out to Wild Thing anymore. It's just like this very grungy instrumental.
Oh, that's boring. Come on. I was hoping this was just sort of a one-off thing that I'd come into.
Yeah, this is where they have been since Full Gear in November, so this is where we're going.
That's too bad. I like Wild Thing Moxley. I'm sure that'll come back eventually. I don't mind the name. It's just sort of, I always wanted Blackpool Combat Club gear. Now I got to go look on eBay.
Oh, well. So we go to commercial. We come back. We hear from Mariah May because this week we have the Women's Casino Gauntlet where the winner will get a chance at Mariah's title at Grand Slam Australia. And then she brings out Harley Cameron. Well, Harley Cameron comes out, and she challenges Mariah to a non-title match, and it is going to be dubbed as the Hot Girl Graps match on Collision on Saturday. So Harley Cameron versus Mariah May is set up for this. Listen, I know you haven't been here, but me and Adolfo and Alice have fallen in love with Harley Cameron and her craziness.
Yeah, she seems nuts. I'm all here for it.
She's so good. And she's constantly on every single show, including Ring of Honor, and she has stated that she wants to get more experience and be a good representative for AEW. I'm like, you go, Harley Cameron. We love you here.
She seems like a wild ass. I'm excited to see that.
Exactly. So now we get into our women's match of the evening, which is a triple threat match to see who earns the number one spot for the Women's Casino Gauntlet at Maximum Carnage Dynamite. And this sees, personally, my three favorite women right now. Willow Nightingale, Chris Statlander, and the, newbie to AEW as what she's going with now, Miss Toni Storm. It's Tony time.
It's so weird.
So good.
So plugging myself back into it. I mean, we can catch up later. We don't have to talk too much about this. Does she not know she has a record?
That's the funny thing. So she did a segment.
She's 61-10. Yeah, you're not a newbie.
she did a pre-tape spot with RJ City, who even brought that up, and Tony's just like, I think you have me for somebody else confused. I'm new here. I'm super grateful. I'm just getting in my reps. Like, I'm gonna earn my way up the card. RJ City playing the very funny and straight man is just like losing his mind. Be like, but.
Wow.
It is such a weird and interesting layer to this whole thing now that the Timeless One is currently on hiatus. Who knows if she's coming back to it, but she's currently in the Tony Time era. I love that she reinvents herself every couple of months and it works. Like, the amount of creative freedom she seems to have is crazy.
The day she gets hit in the head and becomes timeless again, the crowd is going to melt and go crazy.
It's so good. This was a really fun match. There was one particular spot where Willow had Tony by the feet, and then she got catapulted into Chris Statlander's demonetized, like trying not to get demonetized area for a spot, which was crazy. But these three women can go, man. This is so much fun.
I don't know if you caught this. At least the first half of this match I did. Toni Storm is purposely doing amateur things. If you catch this, like there's moments where she's
I was
moved.
just about to say.
She's waiting for the thing, or she did a half-assed cartwheel, or she ran the rope a little too late on certain things, and Willow had to she's making the choice to do it badly while not sacrificing how good the three of them are together. Like that's some meta shit. This is impressive.
That's what I said. I was just like, wherever 2025 takes Tony time, I'm here for it. But unfortunately, our newbie Tony gets pinned, and the winner is Chris Statlander. So Chris will be starting out the women's gauntlet tomorrow night. So she has the best chance of going to Australia to face Mariah May. Yeah, Professor, outside of Darby and Will to go catch up on, I also highly recommend when you find the time to go check out the two matches that Chris has had with Mercedes at Full Gear and World's End, because those are probably two of Mercedes' best matches in AEW. Like, they were really good.
Good. All right, I'll take it.
Chris deserves her flowers. Chris Statlander is that girl, and I'm so happy that she's continuing to get the spotlight. These were the perfect three women to have on Dynamite to get the fans roaring.
Very
so
cool.
This was fantastic.
This was great. Yeah, I enjoyed this a lot.
And it carried over too, because after commercial break, Toni Storm says she's disappointed and she was not ready, but she looks forward to the Casino Gauntlet match next week. I was like, this is genius. I love you, Toni Storm.
And Renee being all serious about it too, and then just letting her have amnesia and do the thing. That's so funny.
Oh my goodness. Technically this was the main event wrestling part of Dynamite, because then our actual main event was a closing promo where we get the return of Kenny Omega. Kenny was back in the ring at Wrestle Dynasty when he had a match against Gabe Kidd, bled all over the place. It was crazy. It's really early in the year, but that match is already on my list of the top match for me in 2025. It was that great. It was that crazy. It was that good. But Kenny Omega, I love this promo. And we learned a lot of what's been happening with him the last, year and a half. The fact that he had 2 feet of his digestive system taken out due to diverticulitis. And I'm just like, that's a lot of digestive tract to get, that's wild.
I don't know how much the human has, but that's a lot of it's just gone. It also totally makes sense that he tried to come back too early twice and kept ending up in the hospital. Like, yeah, that makes sense. That tracks. All right.
So this Kenny Omega is not here for friends. He's here to get back what he lost. We get a serious one, and then he is interrupted by the Don Fallis family, as we call them now. Don comes out with the rest of the crew. They interrupt Omega. And then we just jump straight into the beatdown, because Kyle Fletcher and Lance Archer popping up to beat up with Brian Cage on Omega. But then Will Ospreay comes down with the chair for the save. Brian Cage tries to catch Will by surprise on the ramp, but is met with the chair.
And Cage looking like Steve Blackman. Did you see this buzz?
Yes, he grew his hair and his beard back. It took me a little bit. Adolfo, it took a little bit longer because that's his baby daddy. And he was just like, sure. I don't know how I feel about this. I am happy to report that Adolfo is still in love with Brian Cage.
Fair.
But, Will Ospreay chases everything off. Ospreay and, Omega have a stare off. And again, he shakes Kenny's hand. And I'm very interested. I'm like, Will Ospreay is collecting some very interesting pieces. Brody with Buddy Matthews, talking about Brody King, him and Kenny Omega having a quiet understanding. And this is also where we find out that Kenny Omega at Maximum Carnage will be facing Brian Cage in his return match to AEW, which is super exciting.
That's going to be pretty cool. I'm excited to see that.
That is, and that brings us to the end of the Dynamite report. This Dynamite was really solid. I feel like my time wasn't wasted for a lot of this. I definitely give this a thumbs up in the words of Simon Miller.
And I've used this analogy a lot, and I think you've kind of taken it a few times too, where it's sort of like, is this a soap opera with wrestling? Or is this a wrestling show with soap operas? Or what? This was a straight wrestling show. The in the rings talking was minimal and interrupted. Like this was a tight 2 hours. Like this was flying. The
So good.
matches were clean. There was nothing clunky that we were like, what the hell was that? Or that was a miscue or nothing weird. Like this was a really solid, for a Wednesday in January, like random, like, oh, this is really, some of these are borderline, 0 hour matches like that you would see on pay-per-views and things, right? Like there was some really good stuff here.
This Dynamite was a lot of fun, and it kind of carried over for what we're going to talk about next, because now we go into the AEW Collision recap really quickly. Collision also did the same thing where it didn't waste too much time with everything. So at this point, AEW Collision took place January 11th from the Atkins Ford Arena in Athens, Georgia, as I like to call Georgia. Saturday night, Georgia. I can't take credit for that. Medea taught me well. Anyways, Saturday night's all right for fighting. So we begin and we open up Collision with this match, the Rated R Superstar Cove taking on Large William. Big Bill, your favorite.
I like Large William. I hope he still stays goofy and stupid for all of 2025.
He has stayed this way since being in the learning tree. And I kid you not, Professor, this is probably Large Williams' best television match on AEW. He looked great. Cope did a really good job of making him seem like a threat. This was actually a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be.
I'm going to pull it up so I can watch it in tandem as we talk about it. That's great.
This was great. Of course, Cope does pick up the victory here. But it's gonna take us a hot minute. But Rated R Superstar Cope takes on Large William. Cope wins. There's a brawl that breaks out between Rated FTR and the Learning Tree. And then we get the announcement that Dax versus Chris Jericho in our main event means we'll have nobody else. Everybody will be barred from ringside. So it's just going to be Dax versus Chris Jericho 1-on-1 in the main event. So this was crazy. The fact that Cope spears Large William and he sells it beautifully is such a great thing.
So why, you don't have to explain this here, but so there's an FTR Learning Tree feud going on here too? Sizable Billy.
Hi, Andrew.
Are you an extra large? No, I'm an LL. Oh, that's a very sizable size, Mr. Williams.
So again, Cope and FTR pulling double duty because they have this feud going on Dynamite with the Death Riders. And then here on Collision, they have the Learning Tree. And then it's kind of coming together because by the end of the show, we get an announcement that on Maximum Carnage Collision, we're getting a 12-person tag team match.
Chris Jericho wearing a shirt that says "I love Chris Jericho" just tells you everything you need to know about Chris Jericho. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
It is crazy. But this was our opening match of the show. I thought this was a lot of fun. We then get a video package of Kenny Omega's return from Wednesday's Dynamite. We go to commercial. We come back and we see Hangman Aggro Page. He is beefing with people, and we get the announcement that he's going to be taking on corporate Chris. Well, he's not corporate anymore because he's no longer an EVP, but he's taking on former corporate Christopher Daniels in a Texas death match on Maximum Carnage Collision. I'm just like, somebody's going to die. It's going to be crazy.
Someone's going to die. So EVP is not a thing now. They're not in charge.
Corporate Christopher Daniels is no longer an EVP. Technically, the only EVP that's left is Kenny Omega now that he's returned, since the Bucks are still out storyline-wise. Though they did win the IWGP Tag Championships at Wrestle Dynasty, so they're champs in Japan right now. So that's crazy. Jack Perry lost his title to Daniel Garcia. Okada's the only one who still has his championship.
Oh, I'm excited.
He beat Will Ospreay to retain it in the finals of the Continental Classic at World's End. That match was baller.
I heard about that. All right, I gotta go look that up too.
Lots of things. But yeah, Texas Death Match.
Pac is on my screen right now. What happened?
Oh, okay. So this actually perfectly leads into what we're going to do next, which is not Hot Girls Graphs. We'll get to you Hot Girls Graphs in a little bit.
Hey!
There we go.
Oh, okay.
Look at this picture of Pac, bro. Like, he is going to kill you. He is going to kill you. But next up, we have a singles match between 1/3 of the AEW's Trio Championship, which I'm super happy is finally back in the ring, taking on our new Ring of Honor World Television Champion, Mr. Commander. So he won the title in a survival of the fittest 6-way elimination match, dethroning Brian Cage as the champion. That match was so ballin'. It was so great.
All right.
So this match was what you thought it was going to be. It is Pac and Commander defying all laws of physics, gravity, and OSHA laws to put on this banger of a match.
All the
Gravel.
This looks fun.
This match was amazing. Oh my, this was so good. Ultimately, Pac does pick up the victory, but holy crap, this match was amazing.
Wow. Yeah, there's some cool moments in here. I'm just flipping through just because I don't know any of this. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, I'm so happy now that, well, and we'll talk about it at the very end, but now that we have two certain luchadors no longer a part of AEW, Commander needs to be put in the top 4 and like your 4 luchador horsemen, if you will, of this company, and need to be spotlighted and pushed. Wow. So it is crazy.
Yeah, springboard DDT off the ropes looked gorgeous. Pac flipping him up and around into that other powerbomb looking thing. That's pretty. Wow.
Yeah, Collision has some really good matches. We just need better storylines. I say it all the time, but this was a phenomenal match. And then it was also another phenomenal match that we got next too, because we wasted no time. The rest of the Death Riders come in. They try to beat up Commander, but then they get saved by the youngest men alive, and then we go straight into our next match, which is a tag team match that has Wheeler Yuta and Claudio Castagnoli taking on my personal favorite tag team, the Outrunners. I am so happy they get so much television time. They got 2 matches. They got on the pay-per-views, which was crazy. They were involved in that fatal 4-way for Private Party's tag team championships at Full Gear, and they showed up and showed out. But can we the ending is what the best part. Claudio literally just yeeted Wheeler Yuta off his back, who got some air to get the pin.
Let me find this thing.
It is crazy. It was amazing. This match was fun. I'm sad the Outrunners lost, but we are building up, Death Riders just making enemies out of everybody. Also,
oh my god. Yeah, did a fastball special.
Yeah, that is literally what they did. They did the fastball special. And now I will not call it anything else but that. I managed that Claudio and Wheeler are the weird Asian and Swiss versions of Colossus and Wolverine.
Wheeler, you just trying to look like a Wolverine with that angry beard he's got going. That's amazing.
It's crazy. This match was so much freaking fun.
I'm just going to toss you on top of him. Outrunners are great. I haven't seen them as much as I can. They look like a tag team I would have watched when I was 7 years old. Because
they are so good.
They look straight out of
their promos are ridiculous too. If I can find it, I'm going to show you the one they did with FTR, where they did like a whole 80s montage of transforming FTR into honorary members of the Outrunners. And it's literally like them tanning and hitting, like, it is ridiculous funny, and I loved it. Oh my goodness, this is so much fun. We cut to commercial, we come back, we get a really fun promo from Powerhouse Hobbs that, he's going to shock the world and walk away as AEW World Champion. Spoiler alert, I don't think that's going to happen, but crazier things have happened. I do hope that Moxley lets Powerhouse Hobbs get a good showing, because I love Hobbs and I want him to continue to get pushed. Tony and Nigel are on the announcer table for Maximum Carnage. Then Harley Cameron's music hits. And then this is where we finally get into Hot Girl Graps, as they have dubbed it. Mariah May versus Harley Cameron in a non-title match. Harley Cameron does a very good job of keeping up with Mariah, but nobody is ready for Mariah May, and ultimately she does win by dropping Harley with the Storm Zero to pick up the victory. A little bit of a short match, but I love this. It was fantastic. They're both crazy, and I love them.
Great. I will go back. Harley Cameron seems like she's a lot of fun. There's some cool moments in here as I'm just flipping through, having not watched Collision, which I guess I gotta start checking out on Collision when I have time. Anyway.
Oh my goodness. So we go backstage. Christopher Daniels responds to Hangman Aggro Page, accepts goes through his career of what he's done in professional wrestling, says that he has helped build 2 promotions up for the ground up, and was AEW before AEW was real. Former corporate Daniels says that he will shed Hangman Page's blood and accepts the Texas death match. So I'm like, this is going to be a good match. I'm preparing the eulogy for
Damn.
former corporate Daniels.
Yeah, Christopher Daniels been around a long time, done a lot of cool stuff. I don't know how old he is.
I want to say he's in his 40s. Like
He's
this
not
is
super
what?
old, is he? Yeah, just in my head, I feel like he's older because he's just done so much things when you look at him. I'm intrigued. This might get gross, but we'll see what happens.
Tune in to watch this Saturday because Collision is going to be this week's Dynamite and Collision are about to get crazy. So then we get an unadvertised match where it's basically a squash match where we have my baby daddy Brody King come on out and face local talent Trevor Blackwell. This match doesn't go too long. Trevor tries to chop Brody King. Brody King chops him down to the floor and then hits him with a big cannonball. Drops him on his. I love it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. My fault. Is this guy just some local?
Yeah, well, I think okay. So Trevor Blackwell, I know him on the independent scene, but they probably have him locally here. Brody King just beat the tar out of him.
Yeah, I flipped over it as I was moving the cursor along. I had to go back and grab this because it's not very long.
But
yeah, and it's over. Okay, well,
and it's over. Brody King picks up the victory. Love that my baby daddy is winning.
Still, I mean, he still looks like a coloring book to me, but that's okay. I'm not judging. That's okay.
He will beat me up, but he also gives the best hugs.
It seems like he's a good hugger, yeah.
He's a sweetheart. And his
I say
this all the time.
Was he at the WrestleCon that you went to?
No, I wish he was though, because I want to give him a hug. But anyways, he's so good. He has become a lot of the younger stars, like wrestling dad. He's the parent to a lot of the younger stars, like Julia Hart, Sky Blue, Kyle Fletcher a little bit. Private Party surprisingly has a really fun relationship with Brody King too, behind the scenes. Brody is just that guy, and I love him so much. Speaking of Brody, we're not done with him because we go to commercial and we come back. Lexi is with Brody and Julia. Cope comes into the interview and continuing to tell us that Malachi Black is done with AEW, telling him that he respects him and Julia and Buddy, and that, it's time for them to take the reins and run with it. So I'm just like, okay, kids, let's see what happens.
So is Malachi Black actually gone?
That's the rumored report. The report from Fightful and other outlets is he's finishing up with AEW and he's not expected to be on television. So I would not be surprised if, depending on how contracts go, if Malachi, appears at the Rumble in like.
I wonder why they would. Oh, you think he's going to jump in the Rumble?
Who knows? I would not be surprised. We shall see what happens.
Oh, that would be wild.
It's crazy watching this in real life time, especially because, again, not trying to talk about another promotion because we're talking about AEW.
No,
but
sure.
It's crazy that we live in a time where we're seeing different wrestlers and different promotions. Me and Adolfo saw Matt Riddle win the MLW World Heavyweight Championship on Saturday. I got to witness, and a bunch of us that watched Monday Night Raw, we got to see Penta El Zero Miedo debut in a W ring and have a banger match against Chad Gable, which was
I might
great.
watch that tonight. I might go watch that tonight just so I could see it.
It is fantastic. Like, this is a crazy time, but yeah, so I don't know what the status of Malachi, if he's like, how long it's going to be, but only time will tell. Then we get into my personal match of the night for Collision, TNT Championship match. Daniel Garcia versus my absolute other favorite, Katsuyori Shibata. This was hard-hitting and crazy. This was their Ring of Honor Pure Title Championship match round 2. They beat the tar out of each other.
I just jumped ahead to this, and like the no selling on Shibata, he's just so strong.
Shibata is so damn good. I love him so much.
Yeah.
Him and Samoa Joe are the best no sellers to me.
Daniel Garcia's come so far in just a year and a half. He's gonna get run, and now we're actually seeing him do stuff the last 6 months or so. It's great.
I love this. It was so good. Daniel Garcia does retain his championship. Both men show great sportsmanship, and Daniel gets on the barricade to give the fans what they want, and he does the little dance, which we loved it. We get a video package talking about the Women's Casino Gauntlet happening this week, narrated by the one and only Renee Paquette. And this is the first Women's Casino Gauntlet match in AEW history. So I'm super excited to see that and who walks out of it.
Yeah.
Which means we get into our main event. Yeah, let that sink in.
Why is this the main event?
That's what I said. Listen, I love me FTR bald and almost a porn stash, porn star, if you will.
Bald and felony. Yeah.
Well, so Dax is bald, and then Cash is acquitted of a felony.
Harward and recently acquitted.
AEW Burt Reynolds versus Please Retire Chris Jericho.
Right.
FTR bald versus the new Chris Jericho. I'm gonna be honest. I love Dax, I really do, but even he cannot save what this match was, which was not great. I did not enjoy this match.
Really?
And it sucks that Dax lost because Chris Jericho, spoiler alert, wins.
Why though? Like,
He doesn't need to win.
no, and he shouldn't be. He's, I don't know.
It's crazy.
It's a weird choice. I'll probably go through this and look at it. It doesn't look exceptional to me. I'm not sure what Chris Jericho's doing at this point. You know.
Neither do we, but you know what? He's the Ring of Honor World Champion. I'm so upset he beat Matt Cardona at Hammerstein at Final Battle,
Yeah.
and it is what it is.
Well, he's probably, I don't want to impose because I have no idea, and we'll probably find out eventually, but it just seems very ornery that he's at a stage where I'm not going to lose to any of you. I'm not going to put anyone over. I'm just going to do me. And it's like, that we can see that. That's rough.
It is. And after the match, we just have a giant brawl. The Learning Tree comes out with Large William and Brian Keith. Cope and Cash come out to even the odds. And then the Death Riders show up. And then, Powerhouse Hobbs comes to clear the ring. And we get the announcement that we're getting on Collision this week. We are getting a 12-man tag of Cope, FTR, Powerhouse. Oops, actually, you know what? I don't want to get these wrong because it's like a weird collection of folks. But yeah, so this match brings us to the end of Collision. I was like, damn, we were so close to having something really fun. But
there's a lot of people in the ring at the end of this.
Okay, so here we go. So this Saturday on Maximum Carnage Collision in a 12-man tag team match. This is crazy, and there's a lot of pushback, surprisingly. People are like, this is lazy booking, do better, Tony Khan. And I was just like, I don't disagree, but let's give it a chance. But it is Moxley, Claudio, Wheeler, Chris Jericho, Large William, Brian Keith, so Learning Tree and Death Riders versus the team of Rated FTR, so Cope and FTR, Powerhouse Hobbs, and the Outrun. This is a lot of people.
It's a little lazy. You could have broken that in half and let it run for 2 weeks.
This was wild. That's a lot of people in the ring.
That is. I get it. It's a spectacle. Sure. It's the beginning of the year. You want to get everybody getting run. Fine. It does come off a little nonchalant, though.
Right.
What do you want to do? Put 12 people in there. Let's go. There's no.
Sure. Why not? I still think it's going to be fun, but that's a lot of people. We could have just had a variety of tag team matches, to be honest.
Right.
We could have broken this down. But,
you have a roster of 300 people. Use all 300 people. I don't know.
Sure, why not? But that brings us to the end of this week's AEW. So we are preparing for Maximum Carnage this week for both Dynamite and Collision. So let's preview that a little bit. So let's go over Dynamite first, and then at Maximum Carnage Dynamite tomorrow, we have Christian Cage versus Hook, which I'm hoping ends this feud that has been dragged out longer than it needed to be. We also have Kenny Omega versus Swolverine himself, Brian Cage. We have, newly announced earlier in the week, Private Party and Mark Briscoe versus the Hurt Syndicate. So Shelton, Bobby, and MVP, which makes me super excited.
Mark Briscoe just standing in this.
Not like the other.
As you look at this, oh my God.
This is it reminds me of that meme. This is you are African American and Mark. It's but we rock with Mark, but he rocks with us. This is basically what I'm getting from this match. I love it. I don't care. I love it. And then, of course, what I hope to be the main event, which, knowing Dynamite, they never put the women in the main event. I want this Casino Gauntlet to main event Dynamite.
So they're in Australia tomorrow.
So what this is that the Gauntlet match is occurring, and the
winner
winner
gets a shot. I'm sorry.
Shot at Mariah's title, which will be at Grand Slam Australia in February.
Sorry, I read that wrong as I read it. Wait.
That would be crazy because below Wednesday, January 15th, it says live from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah, that's my
Ohio.
Hi.
And then, of course, what probably is going to end up main eventing the AEW World Championship, Mox versus Powerhouse Hobbs.
I like Hobbs a lot. I don't think that's going to go this way, but
it makes me sad. And then the only thing, and it was just announced today. I didn't have a card. We'll finally hear from Ricochet after stabbing Swerve Strickland with some scissors. So that's gonna be crazy.
Man, yeah, I gotta go. Did he get him? Stuck him in an arm or something? Or
Yeah, if you look up, I'll send you the video after we're done. so you can watch it. But yeah, Swerve was bleeding all over the place after the match. It was
He let him
wild.
stab him with scissors?
It was.
No, these guys are
And-
getting crazy. I mean, some of these wrestlers are nuts as it is, but what is the conversation like? What do you want to
Just
do?
stab me a bunch of-
I might cut my forehead a little bit. I might go down the steps. Why don't you stab me with those scissors? Yeah, that's cool. Where do you want me to stab you, bro? Well, you know,
in the head, all over the place. Just
like in Scream, like don't just stab so deep, right? Like just a
Right.
little, oh, you stabbed too deep. Think I'm tight.
Exactly. And then, of course, so far the only thing announced outside of that 12-man tag for Collision is this Texas death match between Hangman Aggro Page and former corporate Christopher Daniels.
Why is
Christopher
that photo? That's a bad photo for Adam Page, man.
Yes, I was just like, he's staring into my soul, and I don't
They
like
did
it.
him dirty there. No, that's more of a confused.
Like, what is this, you guys? I can't. But yeah, I'm excited for this upcoming week of Dynamite. This is gonna be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to review it next
Cool.
Tuesday. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this. This was a fun week for AEW, and you can catch us again next Tuesday as we cover the maximum carnage of Dynamite and Collision. So me and the Professor will be back at it again next Tuesday. But thank you so much for tuning in to all of our shenanigans. Again, if you want to keep up with us, follow us all over the social medias and subscribe and hit the bell notification on YouTube and follow us on Twitch where we have a bunch of fun stuff. We will be back with reviews tomorrow for NXT and CMLL. But until then, sayonara, adios, and please take care of yourselves this evening forever and ever.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's gonna happen next time? Well, you're gonna have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.